All right. What's up, everybody, and welcome back. This just dropped over on Reddit, posted by Alex, the head of ESL Starcraft. As far as we know, this is pretty much what we're looking at potentially going into the game, and they're wanting kind of, I guess, feedback from the community is why they're posting this, and they're just kind of getting people excited and saying, hey, you guys happy to see this? What do you think? Are you excited about mid-game Mothership bringing back mech play to TVP with the Cyclone redesign and Broodlords becoming closer to Guardians? Go take a look. All right, so we've gone in here and they've said essentially the patch goals are make Protoss more stable on a professional level in the early game versus Terran and more competitive against late game Terran armies with ghosts included. Increase the variety in the mid game and late game army comps by reducing the strength of certain units in large amounts. Banelings, disruptors, and ghosts. Units that people do get pretty angry about. Seems like good things to target. Make over-specialized units like Cyclones, Mothership, and Infestors viable throughout more stages of the game. I think Infestors are always viable, but otherwise, I could totally see the point. Also, bring more visual clarity to important units on the minimap, as well as relevant abilities like Widowmine targeting and Disruptor's cooldown indicator. Interesting. Promote more interaction in late-game scenarios by making units such as Tempest, Mothership, and Broodlord more maneuverable. Okay, cool. They did say they wanted to make the Broodlord more like a Guardian. This is interesting. Okay, so remember, I've seen some of these suggestions secretly, but I haven't been able to talk about them. Now this is all publicly posted. I can talk about all of it. And to be fair, a lot of it I haven't even seen because there's so much discussion going on with all these changes. This is a lot of stuff to focus on and deal with. All right, so first up, the Cyclone. Cost reduced from 100 to 125.50, just making it a little bit cheaper. Tech lab requirement removed. Whoa, that's huge. If you don't need a tech lab, Cyclones are way easier to get, which makes them way better. And they're much cheaper, actually. So they're going to make it 20 hit points less, down 120 to 100 hit points. Armor reduced from 1 to 0. Supply cost reduced from 3 to 2. Auto attack range increased from 5 to 6, so their regular attack is slightly further. Auto attack damage and attack speed is now 11 plus 2 versus armored. 0.491 cooldown. Oh, but what is it currently? Hold on a second. Cyclone Legacy of the Void. Cyclone Tracy pops up. I don't know what its actual damage is right now. No one knows what the automatic damage is. 18. It's just 18 flat damage. So that's a big drop. That's a big drop in damage. 18 down to 11. But obviously it's way cheaper and you can build them way easier because you can react to them. So Lock-On now uses the Cyclone's auto attack damage with +1 damage per weapon upgrade. And it no longer ignores armor. Oh, so the Cyclone Lock-On is just, it allows them to move and shoot, but otherwise it's like the same damage output they normally have. So it's nowhere near as drastic as it currently is and previously was. Lock-On also no longer has a delay before the first shot, and it maintains weapon cooldown between lock-ons. Okay, so basically what they're saying there is normally your Cyclone moves up, it kind of goes, and then it takes its first shot. So it's really awkward because your Cyclone kind of needs to go up, set itself, and then shoot. That's that auto delay, that delay. So they're removing that to make it easier to move in, shoot, run away. Move in, shoot, run away, that sort of stuff. That's huge. Lock-on cooldown is removed as well. So you can constantly lock on, cancel, lock on to something else. It's as microable as you want it to be. And that's fine because obviously it's so much weaker with its damage output. Lock-on cast range is reduced from 7 to 6, and lock-on max range reduced from 15 to 9. So it's nowhere near as powerful with locking on from quite so far away. That seems like it might be a little too short though. With how low the lock-on damage is, and that, it feels a little low, but I haven't tested it. The fact that you can react to the Cyclones out, you do have to be careful about it being too powerful. So I can understand why they went on the low end with the range. Multiple Cyclones will now cast auto lock-on onto the same target. That's a problem. What if they all... Wouldn't they just automatically all lock on the front unit then? That's a huge problem, because then if there's a Zergling in front, 20 Cyclones all lock on the same unit, right? Like if there's one Ling out front of the others, that could be awkward. I guess it instantly dies and then they target other units that are near closer, so yeah, maybe it's okay. Mag field accelerate upgrade removed. Move speed reduced from 4.73 to 3.6, way slower. And new upgrade, increasing movement speed to 5.1. Oh, so they can get an upgrade that makes them even faster than the current Cyclone. Okay, that's cute. That's really cute. I like it. They want to make it a more all-around unit in all matchups and increase the viability of mech-based gameplay against Protoss while promoting more active engagements with mech-based armies. Cool ideas. I mean, this is crazy. I like crazy changes. It might be broken. Good. Chuck it in there. Chuck it in there. Give it a go. I'm happy for things to get broken. Snipe damage reduced from 170 to 130, plus 40 versus Psionic. Oh, okay, so Snipe's going to be not as good versus Ultras, but still very good versus Spellcasters. So still very good for taking out High Templar. I mean, doesn't really change anything versus High Templar, but Vipers. I can't think of other Psionic units they really need the bonus damage. Like, what Psionic units don't get one-shot by Snipe? Infesta's only got like 90 hit points. Viper has... How much? Does Viper have 200 hit points? Seems like too much. Maybe it's not actually 200, is it? I actually don't know what a Viper's hit points are right now. 150. So they're just making sure that it can still one-shot a Viper. Fair enough. EMP radius reduced. Ooh. It'll encourage Protoss to use Psystorm, help in straight engagements versus Terran. Snipe will no longer one-shot units such as Zealots and Roaches. Oh, it won't one-shot Zealots and Roaches with this change. Oh, wow. I was thinking about Ultras only, but yeah. It also requires an extra shot to kill Ultras in late game, so it reduces their cost efficiency over time, while still being able to kill important spellcasters such as Vipers. Widowmine. Drilling Claw now also makes the Widowmine unburrow twice as fast. Targeting line is now more visible. Oh, because it would be very quick to burrow, but it didn't speed up the unburrow. Oh, that makes sense. Targeting line is more visible because it's a very narrow line, and on some maps it's hard to see. For those who don't know, some of you might have played against Widowmines a ton and don't even realize you can see the unit it's targeting. Once it starts targeting a unit, there's a little line leading to it. This returns some of the strength to active Widowmine Micro in the mid-game versus Zerg that was lost after the Drilling Claw's burrow speed nerf, while not significantly increasing the power of Widowmine drops. Cool. Medevac. Speed upgrade replaced with Caduceus Reactor. It increases energy regen rate by 100%. Cost 100, and it takes 53.57 seconds. Whoa! 100% energy regen rate for Medevacs. That's kind of crazy. I like that if there's constant fighting, Medevacs can run out of energy right now, though. But it's like pretty rare. Once you get to 8 or 10 Medevacs, it's hard to make them run out of energy. I feel like once you get this, they're never going to run out of energy. Once you're at like 6 Medevacs, they could just like heal forever. So I worry this might be a bigger buff than people realize. Which is interesting. Now, notice minimap radius increased from 0.75 to 1. So this replaces the current unused Medevac upgrade with an upgrade which could be used in active games with a large Medevac count that run out of energy. I actually think you just won't need to build as many Medevacs if you have that upgrade. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but definitely interesting. I mean, it's still a Fusion Core upgrade, so I believe, unless they put it on the Tech Lab for the start, but it's probably on a Fusion Core. Standardized minimap size of the Warp Prism, the Medevac, and the Overlord. Previously, Warp Prisms could appear smaller on the minimap on large maps. Warp Prisms? Maybe they mean Medevacs here. This is a Medevac change. Maybe they're all going from 0.75 to 1, so they're just increasing the size of all of them because they all had the same issue. So maybe we're going to see this same copy-paste on the other units as well. Interference Matrix now requires an upgrade. Cost 50/50, 57.14 seconds research time. Okay, it's a cheap upgrade, but you need an upgrade. Okay, Ravens don't come out quite as strong. I do like that. A single Raven opening can currently disable multiple key defensive units and early pushes against Protoss. The cheap cost of the upgrade still allows for multiple Raven play in TVT and specialized builds in TVP. Yeah, at the moment, the Raven is OP against Protoss. It's too good at shutting down Colossi, and a single Raven clears up observers, it can auto-turret harass, and it can Matrix. It has a bit too much utility, especially versus Twilight Council builds, where you can't really hunt it down when it's on the edge of the map. So I like this, because what this does is with the new quick build time and cheap Raven, well, you build a Raven in half of this time. Well, what are you going to do? Leave the Starport on the Tech Lab for another 30 seconds? Well, if you're doing that, now you're committing a lot more. Whereas instead, normally the Starport lifts off, builds a reactor, builds another Tech Lab, your barrack starts using the Tech Lab. So you're going to remove that commitment of your production. You need to commit more now to get Interference Matrix in. It'll still be a mainstay of TVT where you go a couple of Ravens. You're going to build 3 Ravens anyway. Yeah, you might as well make the 50/50 upgrade. Not that much change. This is a really cool, elegant change. I really like it. Zerg. Lurker. Okay, Adaptive Talon's move speed bonus removed. Okay, so it burrows quicker and unburrows quicker, but no longer does it make Lurkers move quicker. I like it. They're a siege unit. If you want to keep them really powerful, sure, but they shouldn't be so quick to run away. I hate it as a Protoss player when I'm playing ground versus Lurkers and I set up this awesome flank and I go in with the army from 2 sides and they've left. And I'm like, when did that happen? Because they've just unburrowed and run away so quickly, my army couldn't even get in position for the flank. Siege tanks can't do that. Your opponent needs to like unsiege, pick up all of them in the medevacs, boost the medevacs away. That's the only way a Terran can do something similar, and it's way more awkward. Lurkers, similar strength to siege tanks, but the mobility was a bit too powerful and obnoxious, especially for lower level players. All right, so now we've got the Infestor coming in. Okay, Pathogen Glands upgrade removed, but they start with the 75 energy. That's awesome. But Fungal has 1 less cast range. Ooh, that's going to weaken it versus Ghosts a lot in the late game. That's actually quite big. And Fungal growth damage reduced from 30 to 20. I got to say, Zerg players, this hurts Infestors so much versus Terran. This hurts Dark. This hurts me. Who else loves Infestors in the early mid-game? Cyril's been using them a bit. I think this hurts him as well. I love the Infestor. I think it's so OP versus Terran, and I don't think it gets used much. It says, since the Infested Terran ability was removed, the Infestor has no utility until reaching 75 energy. That is true. Fungal damage and cast range is reduced to prevent Infestors from killing Marines with 2 consecutive Fungals. That's my favorite thing to do. That's what I love Infestors for. Why you take this away? And as a trade-off for the EMP radius nerf in the TVZ late game. Oh, okay, so the EMPs have to be a little bit closer, and you have to be a bit more closer, to be fair. They lost 0.25. Wait. Let's get the balance arguments going, guys. They lost 0.25 radius. Oh, but that means it's on both sides, which means it adds up to a half, right? Is that how radius works? You guys know I'm stupid. I think that's how radius works. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong or not. Explain radius. I know, right? Radius is like, yeah, it should be times 2. Okay, so it's a half, whereas Zerg Infestor loses 1 range. It does still hurt that interaction for Zerg, but not as bad as I thought. Fair enough. You know what? The Infestors, you build 3-4 Infestors. They come out, hit the field earlier. Fungal's still fantastic. Stops your opponent from microing. It's a little bit more of a disable rather than a damage dealer. It's still very impactful doing 20 damage to a pack of Marines, but it's not quite as killer as doing 30 plus another Fungal, 60 damage. Even with some medevacs around, all the Marines would go pop, pop, pop. That's not going to be the case anymore. But you know what? You can have a 3rd Infestor there now. Since you don't have to pay for Pathogen Glands, they get the energy earlier. You'll be able to get those Fungals up faster. I think this is totally fine. Air Armor upgrade cost reduced from 150 to basically being really expensive to be the same as air weapons, which is fair. I never quite knew why Air Armor was so expensive. It's less useful than air weapons generally, but it's more expensive. So they've said, well, why is that so expensive? Let's just make them in line. Fair enough. I like it. Viper, consumed damage is reduced from 200 to 150, and it reduces the attention required for gathering Viper energy. Okay. I don't know where that came from. I don't think this really matters much. It's like, you'll accidentally kill your buildings less, which pros very rarely do anyway. We do occasionally see a pro kill their own hatchery with consume, so fair enough. All right, guys, Broodlords. Move speed increased again. They already increased it in the last big patch. Now it's going 2.24 to 2.262. That's sick. Broodling movement speed is reduced, though, from crazy fast, 5.37 to 4.13. So Broodlings aren't quite as fast. Broodling health is reduced from 30 to 20, and Broodling attack speed reduced. So Broodlings are becoming slower, weaker in terms of damage and attack speed, but the Broodling's going to move. The Broodlord will move faster. Interesting. You're going to be able to move in and out and shoot and run and move a bit more with the Broodlords, but I'm really curious to see how this plays out with the Broodlings doing less attack speed, less hit points. That does change just how quickly they get cleared up on the ground. Interesting. Does reduce the strength of Broodlings to compensate. It should allow for more active play in the late game. I have no idea how this is going to play out. It's so complicated. I'm going to have to do a follow-up few videos testing some of these things because the test mod is going to be great. Test mod to-do list. Make this not affect Broodlings from buildings. Okay, so at the moment, the Broodlings from buildings dying are going to be affected by these changes, but they don't want that to be changed. They're like, no, those Broodlings should stay the same because it sucks to hurt that. But I'm not sure. Maybe they don't have a way of doing this or they just haven't implemented it yet. The Overlord deceleration speed increased from 1.49 to 2.28. Generate creep delay reduced from 1.43 to 1.07. This reduces the amount of time it takes for Overlords to stop and begin dropping creep to allow for more active usage of queen drops. Oh, okay, that's very cool. Okay, so normally when you unload your queens out of the drop, it takes half a second for it to stop because of the deceleration, and it takes another half a second to start pooping. So they're speeding, or 1.5 seconds, as we can see, right? So it's going to speed that up a little bit because if you don't have creep out, the queens can't transfuse. And that makes it really hard for like a Void Ray or a Viking can sometimes intercept your Overlord, force your queens to drop, and keep stuttering back. And every time you load the queens back in, it comes back in. And it's really hard to get like a queen drop push across the map. And that's already such a big commitment to go for. This just makes it a little more microable, a little bit harder for your opponent to shut it down. It's cool. It's, you know, it's not huge, but it's like these small little niche changes that are actually really clever. All right, guys, we got the transport upgraded. Movement speed increased from 0.9023 to 1.099. Oh, so when you upgrade an Overlord, it gets an increase in movement speed now. That's cute. Move speed with mimetized carapace increased from 2.62 to 2.83. Oh, okay, yep. And it, basically they're just saying, hey, look, the movement speed boost, it carries over not just for the base Overlord, but also for a speed upgraded Overlord. I like it. I like it. Non-transport upgraded Overlord speed move speed are unchanged. Allow for more active drop usage, and in combination with the Baneling damage nerf, this should not increase the overall strength of Baneling harass against Protoss. They're just saying, look, Baneling drops won't be much scarier, so it's all good. And I haven't seen the Baneling change yet, though. We'll get to that, I guess. Ultralisk cost reduced from 300, 200 to 275, 200, so 25 less minerals, and burrow-unburrow time is reduced further. Okay. Lurkers and Broodlords are generally favored over Ultralisks in the late game, as Ultralisks have poor cost efficiency over time. This should make them more used throughout long games while not greatly reducing the initial investment. Yeah, I mean, 25 minerals per Ultra adds up over time. I'm okay with it. I'm all right with it. I think Ultras are the most looked down on unit by the community, and I think they're insanely good. Just because up to a certain skill level, I mean, it's a big chunky unit. It's easy to macro because you don't need a lot of lava. You just build a bunch of them and they come out and you A-move them and they usually do a good job. Then like they don't need fancy micro in a battle. They just need positioning, and often that positioning is you attack with half your ultras on one side and half your ultras on the other side of the map, and at least one of those packs of ultras is going to do a lot of damage. I don't know. I feel like they're a very easy unit for baboons with bad micro to use. It's going to make it a bit better for those players. So baboons, yeah, let's be happy about that one. Hydralisk, speed and range upgrades are combined. It costs 150, 150, 71 seconds. At the moment, I believe it's a 57-second upgrade, guys. Hydroden. Oh no, at the moment it's 271-second upgrades? No. That can't be right. Is it that long? 71 seconds? That seems like a long time. And this is one of the big problems with Hydras, is it takes so long for these upgrades to kick in, guys. This is a huge problem. And that is trying to remove it. Is it too much of a buff in the other direction, though, getting both upgrades at once? This is a massive buff for Mio Micah style, combined with Hydra's already being more microable. Doing those weird Hydra Ling rushes is going to get more powerful, which is actually really cool. This increases the speed at which Hydras come online in the mid-game, from more quickly responding to enemy air switches such as mutas, and to supplement weaker banelings against ground-based armies. The strength of Hydra-based timings will be monitored versus Protoss during the testing period. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The Mio Micah builds are going to slay. I'm going to practice a bunch of these and abuse this during the testing phase. Even if it doesn't get on the ladder, I think it'll be really dirty. I think you probably just want to make it a longer upgrade. Rather than halving the total upgrade time and the cost, which is a very big buff for the Hydra, you probably want to make this like a 100-second upgrade or something, even though that's very long, I know. Because if I'm interpreting those times correctly, it just seems like a bit too much of a speed buff in terms of those upgrades kicking in. Baneling, bonus damage per upgrade is reduced from 2 plus 2 versus light to just 2 versus all. Oh, okay. So at the moment, for those who don't know, Baneling goes 35 damage plus 1, 39 damage versus light, plus 2, 43 damage versus light. So this is going to make it so you'll no longer one-shot probes or drones with plus 2 attack. If you get plus 3 attack, and they don't have plus 2 armor, you'll still take them out, because you'll go 35, 37, 39, 41 damage. But if they have plus 2 carapace, or plus 2 armor, or shield upgrade, guess what? Knocks 2 damage off, you do 39. So there's a certain point in the game, if they get enough armor or shield upgrades, you'll never one-shot workers, even with plus 3 attack. Very cool. Centrifugal hooks will be reduced in cost, and it'll also have lower research time by 8 seconds. But they're removing their health bonus. For those who don't know, at the moment, you get plus 5 life when you get Baneling speed. That's what Centrifugal Hooks is. So removing that plus 5 life bonus is massive. Back to flat 30 life Banelings. This is huge, guys. This makes a really, really big difference. This reduces some of the strength of mass Baneling armies in the mid-game, and it reduces the volatility in defending Baneling run-bys by requiring multiple Banelings to kill workers. The speed upgrade will also require less of an investment to maintain a similar balance for 2-base Terran Marine tank-based all-ins. This is really interesting. I'm so curious to see how this plays out. I feel like it's one of those things we'll subtly see the change of that health bonus over many months, and the true impact may not be apparent until we've seen hundreds or thousands of games on it. That's just the way StarCraft is sometimes, but I think overall, Baneling spam's a bit too powerful. I love these changes. I'm really positive so far, guys, but this is the big part. Protoss, this is what we've been waiting for. We need to see what's in store for Protoss, because this is the big question mark right now. All right, guys, here we go. Forge. First thing, shield upgrade cost is reduced. Same upgrade, same price. Second upgrade, save 25 minerals, 25 gas. Third upgrade, 50 minerals, 50 gas. Cool. Shield upgrades are generally less useful than attack and armor upgrades for both air and ground units in different scenarios. For instance, against Terran armies with ghosts. This current change helps increasing the cost and efficiency ratio for the shield upgrades. It's a very small change, but it's a nudge in the right direction. I like it. I think already shield upgrades are amazing for Archon heavy armies versus Banelings. So that's going to become even more effective, saving just a little bit of resources there. Nothing huge, tiny bit of resources, but it does help. Cybercore air armor upgrade cost reduced as well to try and make it the same as air weapons. Air armor is generally less useful, despite being more expensive. I kind of like that. They're kind of correcting the logic within the game. This actually makes a lot of sense. This is really cool. The Warp Prism. Minimap radius increased from 0.875 to 1. Awesome. Standardized. Previously, warp prisms would appear on the smaller on the minimap and large maps. As I said, okay, yeah. So I think it was meant to be medevacs because medevacs were only 0.75 or something. But either way, they've clearly just copy-pasted that bit of text between all three of them. Fair enough. Disruptor. Supply cost increased from 3 to 4. Model scale reduced by 9%. Wait, so it costs more supply, but it's smaller? And its radius increased from 0.5 to 0.625. Oh, so they take up more space in the army. So they're going to automatically bump the other units away from them a little bit, but it doesn't affect their ability to squeeze through buildings. Okay. So it's currently hard to tell which disruptors have Purification Nova available when multiple come together as the models intersect with each other. That is true. So when there's like 6 or 8 disruptors together, you can't quite tell like which one do I need to click on to stop it from shooting, because they'll be like kind of glowing yellow if they have, or orange if they have like the shot available, and they look a bit more depowered otherwise. But when they're all clumped together, it's very hard to tell which is which. The goal of supply cost increase is to reduce the potential of mass disruptor armies while still allowing Protoss players to use Disruptor as a strong mid-game and late-game tool. Okay. So this is just a nerf, right? It makes it easier to see the Disruptor, and it costs more supply. That's just a nerf, right? Disruptor is flat nerfed. Just taking away our Disruptors, man. They already nerfed the radius, now this, like the radius of the explosion. Hold your horses. I think this is something I've talked about a lot. People have been saying that a lot of the players, and the Protoss players have been saying, we don't want Protoss to be balanced around Disruptor. We're okay for it to be nerfed slightly. And I think it was like apparently Australia, someone said in my Twitch chat, suggested supply cost being increased. And instead make the other things stronger. Let's see how much stronger they make those other things though. I hope it's a lot. Maybe not like a lot, but you know, something. Prismatic alignment move speed with Flux Veins is now increased from 2.62 to 3.49. Okay, previously there was an issue where Flux Veins decreased the move speed of Void Rays while Prismatic alignment was active from 2.82 to 2.62 when it was intended to be remained at 2.82. Yep. So they fixed the Void Ray bug that Probe caught, where basically, to summarize that, essentially the Void Ray, when it turned on its flux beams, its thick beam, it would actually be slower after having, turning on its prismatic alignment. It would actually be slower at movement speed after getting its speed upgrade when it turns that on than before it did, which is obviously makes no sense. So a movement speed upgrade would make it slower when it used its ability. It was like, it wasn't a big thing, but definitely something it's good for them to fix. Tempest acceleration, deceleration increased from 2.1 to 4.2. Radius model scale reduced by 10%. This will improve the feeling of actively microing Tempest, as the slow acceleration makes them feel slow to respond when not already moving. This has been a big problem for me. I used to love the older Tempest because it had a lot more range. And now this is going to make a big difference. This is just going to make it so much easier to move in and out. And if you look away, do something else, your Tempest stop moving, you're not as punished. Whereas at the moment, you see the expert Tempest players, they just never stop moving. And it's fine, but the moment the Tempest stop moving, they get punished super hard. So this is going to, I think, make Tempest a bit more microable. I'm curious to see, that's not movement speed, that's acceleration and deceleration. It just means they respond faster. Their overall movement speed is the same. So it's nice. I don't know if this is actually that huge of a buff. It helps them be more microable. We'll wait to see how much. Oh no, guys, they finally killed the meme. They finally killed the meme. The mothership cost reduced from 400, 400. You guys know the minus 400 meme. Everyone spams it in Twitch chat every time a mothership gets killed because people feel like it does nothing and then it just always dies. And you're like, well, there goes my 400 minerals and 400 gas for no reason. So they're making it 250, 250. Lower supply from 8 to 6. Build time reduced from 114 to 79. Speed increased slightly, 2.62 to 2.83. And its lateral acceleration increased from 1.925 to 32. A 16 times increase on its lateral acceleration. I don't know what lateral acceleration is. Lateral acceleration is how fast the unit changes direction while moving. Oh, because it kind of like rotates while moving. Ah. Increasing this will make the mothership no longer lag behind other army units of similar speed. Okay. Radius and model scale is also reduced by 20%. It no longer has energy. The recall now has a 110 second cooldown. What's the difference on that? Okay, right now it's got recall, energy 100. Wait, what? Do we not have cooldown on this? I always thought wasn't it 114 seconds previously? I think it's like a 4-second change on the cooldown. I don't think it seems very small. It seems about what it was before. I think it's 114 seconds. The recall radius is also reduced from 6.5 to 5. Okay, so smaller radius. So you can't recall an entire army as easily. Time warp now has a 60-second cooldown instead. So you're not disincentivized from using time warp the way you used to be because you'd be like, oh, I need to save that energy for recall. Time warp slow is reduced from 50% to 33%, but time warp radius is also reduced. So time warp is a giant bubble, slows movement and attack speed by 50%. It's only going to slow by 33% from half down to a third, and it's going to be a little smaller, but the cast delay is reduced. It used to take, you'd be like, cast it, and it takes almost 2 seconds to cast it. It takes forever to pop up. It's so annoying. So they're making it a bit more responsive. Cloaking Field is no longer passive. It is now an activated ability that lasts for 10 seconds with a 50-second cooldown. Oh, that's cool. So you can manually cloak your units for 10 seconds. Very cute. It reduces the investment and increases the maneuverability of the mothership. It also prevents it from being hard counted by EMP. It should allow for earlier mothership builds in all matchups as well as more active usage of the mothership. This is cute. This just makes the mothership more available and a bit more useful. It's not a big change though. Sentry, Guardian Shield duration increased for a few seconds. I like it. This allows Guardian Shield to be precast before engaging Terran armies involving ghosts, lasting longer into the fight. Very good change. Still relatively small, but very solid. Stasis Ward sight range increased from 4 to 7, allows them to be used for central map vision with Stargate-based openings. Very cute, I like it. Immortal Barrier will now also block the first instance of damage which triggers the barrier. Oh, okay. Counts towards 100 damage blocked by the barrier. So currently, EMP hitting an Immortal will drain all of the Immortal shields as well as activating the barrier, which will generally expire before the Immortal ends up receiving other damage, making the unit heavily fall off in the mid-game against Terran. Yeah, okay, so basically what's going to happen is now you EMP, it activates the barrier, and bam, that EMP 100 damage gets blocked. Whereas at the moment, what happens, you EMP an Immortal, it activates its barrier, which is a temporary shield, right? And it knocks 100 shields off the Immortal. So EMP would just take away their ability, and it would also block the take away 100 shields. So it was essentially taking 200 hit points off it for one EMP. So EMP was like double value versus Immortals, which I thought was super BS. You can still EMP it twice and knock the barrier off, and then the next one will go as well. Because I'm pretty sure the Immortal Barrier does block 100 damage. Let me check that. Over 2 seconds, right? So the Immortal Barrier, basically what happens is when it takes damage, its barrier triggers automatically, or you can you turn it off autocast and manually use it, and it absorbs up to 100 damage and lasts for 2 seconds. Yeah. So basically, you're still going to be doing the 100 damage value by clearing the barrier, but you're not going to affect the shields at all of the unit, which is really nice. It means it's 200 hit points, 100 shields is still intact, and you need to EMP it again if you want to knock off that other 100 shields. That's really good. That's awesome, guys. I really think this is massive for TVP. The one issue I have here is I still feel Immortals are a little vulnerable in terms of their one-dimensionality. So the Immortal is still an incredibly expensive unit at 275 minerals. I think the Immortal's a bit too expensive right now for its power level. And it's so focused on killing armored units, and Colossus are so focused on killing light units. I really feel like I still wish with these changes we had maybe the Colossus do back a bit more flat damage equal to Armored and Light, but like, you know, less overall. Immortal also would have been really nice to have some damage in the middle where it's damage versus all units is increased and its bonus versus armored is reduced. So its overall damage versus armored stays the same, but its damage versus other units comes up just a little bit because at the moment it's so much lower at 20 damage versus Marines and Zerglings. It just sucks so much versus them. I really feel like some of those robo units could maybe be buffed up a little bit. Maybe we could bring back Zealot charge damage, something like that. It feels like these are all really nice changes, but once again, the Disruptor's been nerfed a little bit more. Has there been enough compensation? Forge upgrade is a really nice but very minor thing. Air upgrades, Warp Prism changes are just general. Void Ray, we fixed a very tiny bug that most people didn't even know was there. Tempests are a bit more microable. I hope that helps, but I don't know how impactful that is. It's hard. Acceleration, deceleration stats, I really don't understand till I get my hands on with it. Mothership, super cool changes, but once again, not impactful to the core strength of the race. Sentries being able to Guardian Shield for a few seconds longer. Very small changes, same with the stasis traps. The Immortal Barrier does help adversity. It feels like the one thing that gives me faith here in like TVP especially is that the Raven doesn't have the interference matrix at least. But I do think the Raven coming out has been a big problem for TVP especially, which is the biggest problem matchup for Protoss. And I do think these are all good changes in the right direction. My only fear is that they might be erring too much in the wrong direction, especially, I mean, when you look at the Hydra change, I'm going to just go out on a limb and say the Hydra change is a big buff for Hydras. And you've nerfed the Disruptor some more, but you haven't really given any core strength to help against Zerg. So I do think that Hydra change is a bit too good in terms of power level. And obviously, I mean, it's okay for things to not be right. I love the Baneling change, but I mean, the Baneling change is a big nerf, that hit point nerf for Banelings. We can't forget that does nerf the Baneling. The Ghost EMP is nerfed. The Raven interference matrix needs an upgrade. The more I think about all this, I actually think these changes add up because it's not just about Protoss getting buffs. It's about the things causing Protoss problems actually getting weaker as well. And you got to add to this, there's a whole new map pool. I'm going to have to do a separate video, guys. We've got all these maps. I don't have time to go through for a deep analysis. Suffice to say, if the bases are a little bit more compact, slightly less spread out, that's going to help Protoss a lot as well. So depending on how these maps play out in terms of base layout, where the expansions are, and how easy or hard it is to defend against various things that give Terran Protoss problem, especially in PvT, it could actually work out that the map pool itself also makes a big difference. I feel like the current map pool is one of the big problems for Protoss players. So who knows, maybe, maybe as time goes on, those changes, the intersection of all of them is actually quite good. Overall, I'm incredibly pleased with the direction the changes are taking. I do think I want to abuse the Hydra timings. I'm curious to see how the Cyclones being massed works out. I want to try the Cyclones, spamming Hydraling. And I want to try some really dirty, weird Mothership builds with Protoss as well. I'm really excited to try these changes. I think overall there's so many good little quality of life changes, like the things popping up the right size on the minimap, units behaving correctly. Overall, this looks really, really cool. I'm excited for it. I hope you are as well. I'm going to have to test it out and do some more videos once I've actually got hands on. This literally just got announced, so I hope you enjoyed this, just reacting to this video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you all in the next one. Let me know your own thoughts, comments, criticisms, and your own suggestions for balance down in the comments below. We'll catch you guys in the next one, and we'll do a follow-up very soon. Thanks for watching. Goodbye and good night.